Hello, hello. This is Felicia, your ballin' and bipolar success coach here. I have an amazing guest for you today. Her name is Carole Poddell, and she is a life transition strategist. And she has so many things, and I'm so excited for her to chat with you guys about her story and her coping mechanisms and all that good stuff. Carole, why don't we start? That's kind of where it all starts, is your story first, and we'll just kind of do a deep dive. So you go ahead.
Okay, that's amazing. Sorry, I just turned a light on because it's getting dark.
It is.
It is getting dark. And I'm like, I'm going to be at night. Hi, how are you? I'm so happy to be here. I love your show, first
Thank
and
you.
foremost. Yeah,
I
it's really
I
good.
really appreciate you saying that.
Besides the fact that it's an important message, I like how you roll in general. So
Well, thank you. I hope other people like it too, so we shall see.
I hear you. Yeah, so I'm a life transition strategist. I'm a host of a podcast called She Takes the Lead, and a storyteller. I'm a public speaker. I have kind of a very diverse professional and personal background in terms of, the who are you? Like the identity of career, the identity of a woman. Like I would call it diverse for lack of a better term.
Yeah,
But so I'm also a fertility warrior and a single mom by choice and like
that is
all the
amazing. Oh my
things.
gosh.
All the
We have to
things.
talk about all that because I want to
Oh,
too. That's awesome.
oh, definitely then. Yes. No, so yeah, so I spent I'm born and raised New Yorker. I was a performer when I was a kid and I went behind the camera when I was in my 20s. Um, having a creative production life. I was with my ex-husband, or now ex-husband, boyfriend at the time, and
Yeah.
going through life as a TV news producer, a very fun life and
Wow.
everything else. And we were also pursuing our dreams of writing and performing and creating an empire. And we'd been together for a while and I'd had this career and I've always had, I'm neurodiverse. So like I need all the shiny things,
All the things.
it's all the things. And we'd been trying to have a baby. And, at 32 was really when we started. My mother, which is not late now, but she had me when she was 32, which I felt in the 70s was ancient. So
Yeah,
that was
right.
always like my,
Yeah.
that was my marker, right? And we started trying to have a baby and I wasn't getting pregnant. And the marriage, like, regardless of that, was kind of falling apart.
Mm.
And we, we, it just, I was trying to find all the reasons to keep the marriage together. And he was finding all the reasons why the marriage wouldn't work. And finally, he said to me, and I don't think I want children.
Oh,
Yeah. And I was like, okay. And he said, okay, what? And I was like, okay, you can go. Like, he wanted to
wow.
go,
Yeah.
I was
It was
trying
like
not to
that was
let him
like kind of
go.
the straw that broke the camel's
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was probably like the first decision I've ever made in my entire life that was entirely about me and what I wanted and needed in my life.
That's amazing. I mean, that is so sad that that kind of dissolved, but you made that decision for yourself and for the betterment of yourself, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it wasn't like, oh, I was horrified and
Uh,
traumatized and all the things. It wasn't like, yes, I am woman, hear me roar. It was more like, I am
right,
a puddle on the floor.
right,
you
exactly.
know? And
I
so,
think that's where it always starts. Like we're a puddle on
yeah,
the floor, and then we learn later that we were
right.
actually amazing.
Right. That was actually the moment that lifted us to,
Totally,
yeah, yeah.
totally.
So I spent the next however many years dating half of Manhattan,
Mhm.
trying to find him,
Right.
and as I was, going through this journey now of being this single woman, we met I was 20 or 21. So it's not
Wow.
like like I'd never even been with anybody else, dated anybody for more than 3 months and
Right.
had a sex with anybody else. So it was very, and
Oh my gosh.
like my life no longer worked. Not because I didn't have him in it, but because, I was working in overnight in television half the time because I worked for Good Morning America and you go to work at midnight.
Dang.
Yeah, and you're like, and I'm like dating, and then literally they're dropping me off on a Saturday night so I can do weekend GMA.
Oh my
Like, and I'm
God.
putting my little blazer on. You don't have to
You were
dress that.
literally on the morning show,
Yeah. Yeah,
you know?
like literally, yes, exactly. Very much, I definitely identify quite a bit. And
Right,
and
right.
it's a life. Like it's as you
Yeah,
from that show. It's a life. It's a lifestyle. You live and breathe it. It's not, like it's not a clock in job or even just a job that you really, really like that's a part of your lifestyle. It's a life.
just
And
a to
a
do that.
life like
Yeah,
that. There's a lot of people that really that's what they've done with their entire lives, careers. They've devoted it. They're thrilled to death and they feel like they won the lottery. And at a
yeah,
point, I was like, this is not me winning the lottery. Like, I like what I do, but I don't really love what I do anymore. It's not
yeah.
supporting me. Nothing's, like, and now I'm like, I want to have a kid. I'm like,
It's
this
like
all,
it wasn't not to put words in your
no, no,
mouth, but I'm
no.
trying to see, am I on the same page? Like
Yeah.
it wasn't aligning. It
No.
wasn't that what it
Yes.
was?
It's a
Yeah.
great word. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it was not aligning at all. And
Mhm.
I was 34 when all of this happened. So gestationally,
Right.
at 35, you're already,
You're
it's
like
like
old at that
you're
point.
old, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like now trying to like meet the guy. I didn't want to have a relationship solely to have a kid. And I know people who have done that and they're very happy and, their relationships have worked out, but I just knew that wasn't for me.
Totally.
So, and I also knew my professional life wasn't supporting me either. So I actually ended up transitioning out of that. I thought I was going to get into private event planning. It was a nightmare. And
Wow.
then got into randomly because I didn't even take a math class in college. Like I didn't almost pass high school because I couldn't pass math.
Yeah.
So, and ended up working at a hedge fund.
Wow. And it's like all about the numbers. Yeah.
It's all about that. And it's all everybody's very numeric. I was not running anybody's finances, but I ended up like over time seeing that there was a place there for me. I didn't know what it was, but I kind of had an amount of faith or just like a feeling. And
Yeah.
that's really like that it was the right place at the right time and that it was the
It's
right
wild.
people and all that. And over time, I was like, I think there's a place for me here. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm going to try and see. And over time, it happened. And the process of the relationship and the job, and then there were all these other things, because once you make one decision that is like your bones,
Yes.
the world opens up and you go,
Yes.
this is what it's like to make a decision on behalf of me and just me.
Mhm.
And that is it's spectacular. And it's not, I mean, I have a 6-year-old, I have a dog that's 11 who poops in the house. I've got two aging parents in their 80s who live in my building. I
Oh
take
my
care of
God.
everybody.
Everybody. Yeah.
I'm a caretaker. I love taking care of people. It's always been, I'm a people pleaser. It's a pain in the ass, but also, you are who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, like I try to
To an
have
extent,
boundaries
yeah.
around it now, but the truth is that
Sure.
that's sort of my wiring. But what happened ultimately is that throughout all of these experiences, there started to be consistent moments of
Mhm.
how to change and transition and move your life into the direction that you want. And I started noticing habits and I started seeing, you know, that you don't actually need a grenade tossed across your coffee table for your life to change.
Mhm.
So I started exploring it and have done a lot of those pivots now. And now I help women to do that, whether that's from divorce or whether that's just like I'm a stay-at-home mom. I had a career, or I had a year of a career, and then we had a baby, or whatever the thing is. I want to get back in the workforce, or I'm really like I'm just don't know who I am right now. I don't know
Yeah.
what I want anymore because I was one person before my family. Now I have my family and I've been supporting them and taking care of them.
Supporting
And
them. What
that's
do I do? Who am I?
amazing. Right,
Yeah.
right. And it's
Yeah.
it's it's such a gift to be able to do that. Like especially, it took me ultimately 12 years to have my child. Like
Yeah.
that's the span of
Wow.
time from that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like and
Golly.
4 years on fertility, like from one place to the next. So like I am very much like respecting the family and understand how important it is. It's one of my main values.
Mhm.
But I also understand if I'm not whole, or at
Right.
least if I'm not as whole as a person as I can be at any given moment, which is not whole, but it's, a few of the things are clogged
Yeah,
up,
totally,
or full,
totally.
then I'm better for them. And I talk to all these women and they say the same. I'm like, what do you want? And they literally do this. I
Wow.
don't
Oh,
know.
so, I just want to let you know, Carol, if I'm
Yeah.
looking this way, I'm just writing notes about what you say. Okay. So
Oh,
I'm,
no, 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 no. It's all right. It's all
on
right.
my
I
phone
do
in the,
that. I assumed. I didn't think you were
yes,
like checking emails. So, but
right,
if you
right.
are, then tell me and I'll, make
Yeah.
something more interesting.
No, and that's so true. So I just to interject that
Yeah.
and go off of that. I listen to Rachel Hollis all the time. She's like my idol, and
Hmm.
she talks about because her audience is women, moms, entrepreneurs, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's like, it's crazy to me when I talk to women who like don't have any goals for themselves because, and that's my mom. My mom has no
Mm.
like morning routine meditation. She has no, she has her friends and she goes out, but it's like, what do you want to do? How do you
Right.
take care of yourself? And
Right.
instead of just being the caretaker all the time.
All the time. Right. It's very
Yeah,
much ingrained in us, whether that's society, whether that's, maternal instinct, but it's
totally.
still very there. And it's like, so a lot of times when I'm working, my question is, so what do you want? And they're like, and like she'll go through the list of like, well, this will help the family and maybe I could do that, or this will help the family. And I just reframe. Like I think, okay, what do you want? And then let's see how that can help the family.
Right.
Even if it's the same thing, when you're looking at it from a different perspective and you've now like figured out what makes you feel happy, then
Mm-hmm.
it's different. Because like I was in television and I had the sexiest job. I mean, it sounds really fancy. I've got great cocktail party stories and all that.
Right.
I wasn't happy and
Yeah.
it wasn't giving me a feeling of satisfaction at a point.
Like
And
fulfillment and
yeah,
yeah. Hmm.
and then and then I go to the in financial services, which is like, I mean, there's a lot of money involved, but it's like, people are like, oh God, like that sounds so dry. And
Right.
they're not wrong on a certain level, but the feeling that I had, that is the thing about television that I enjoyed, I got to do in that same place. And that is what we're looking for, right? Is the
Totally.
feeling of, I mean, that's what I love what you do and what you talk about because it's like really, you're trying to balance your, I mean, talk about a lot, but like from a mental health perspective,
Right. Hmm.
when you have mental health, um, I don't even want to say issues, but I mean, I think everybody has
Challenges
some
maybe, or yeah,
challenges.
everybody
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
I think everybody does. Like, you can't live in this world, certainly.
Right. Right. Exactly.
It's like, the feeling is actually what you're looking for. It's the idea of what that looks like and the disappointment or the judgment around it, that that's not success, that is
Mhm.
removing you from being able to see it. And that's the part that's
Totally.
like, right?
Totally. And I
Yeah.
think it's such a, do you cuss at all? It's such a
Oh,
mind.
all the time.
Okay, great. So people listening, hopefully, I tried to calm down my language a little bit, but
Mhm.
it is,
It's
it's just,
overrated.
it
Fuck
is.
it.
Yeah, right. It is a mind fuck though, because we have been ingrained, long ago it was, you need to be a mom and you need to be married and have kids and stay at the home. And then it was like, okay, we can have careers, but now you got to have a career to be successful and you got to be this guy. And now it's like, what truly makes you happy and how can you use the talent that you like to use in maybe
Yeah.
that 9 to 5 job, but
Yeah.
how can you do something that fulfills you too, and then keeps you balanced at the same time with all this mental health craziness that we have,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. It's true because
Wild.
the idea of what it looks good in your mind, which is also like that's where the disconnect happens a lot and in mental health as well. Like, I mean, I have depression
Yeah.
and I have anxiety that I've had since I was a child. And I'm now I just learned 6 months ago I'm ADHD, but so now I'm twice
You're
neurodiverse.
just all the things,
I'm all the things. I'm
That's
all the
so
things.
okay, hold on. So I
Yes.
I have a note to go back to like depression and anxiety, but before
Yes.
we go there, because out of
Yes.
my full-blown curiosity
Bring
and
it.
kind of like tooting your horn, I have to relate to you because
Yeah.
I have been single like my whole life, Carol. I mean,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
had a year where I dated some like idiots, and like learned a lot.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but
Right. You always do.
I ultimately have never had like a real actual serious relationship. So it's so funny because my mom, bless her
Mhm.
heart, is the sweetest woman on the planet, but she would always try to push like if you want to have kids, like you need to find a man, like blah blah blah, you need to go out and date. And it was just never, especially now, it is not on my radar.
Yeah.
And a couple years ago, I went to get like my eggs frozen and like
Uh,
what if this happens or get artificially inseminated because I don't.
yeah.
So I just love the fact that it's like I didn't want to have to try to fit a square into a circle with a guy
Yep.
that might be cool to have a baby.
Yeah.
And you went about that road yourself, which is a challenge in and of itself. So I just, I love that. And I think we have so many parallels, but
It sounds like it. That's why I was so excited about this. I was like, we got to talk.
yeah, yeah. I mean, okay, on that journey, just to
Yeah.
touch on,
Yeah.
did, did anybody tell you in your life, like, why are you doing that? Why don't you just date someone? Or did you have any pushback on it at all?
You know, no, except like, um, I'm very fortunate, is the truth. I have very supportive parents who
Yeah.
live in my building. Like, they're in it with me. They're crazy. They're the first ones to admit it, but they're a little wild. Like, they're far more interesting than me on a good day, like on a bad day. Like,
Yeah.
they have it interesting, and they've always kind of done things, as much as two people that are like born in the 30s
Right.
go
Right.
against like my mother was wearing pants to pick me up in the 70s and I was embarrassed. Like, so
Yeah.
there's a lot
Yeah.
has changed, but I have that, and I have a really great group of friends, and the truth is the ones that weren't comfortable with it went away. Like, whether
Yeah.
they went away or I just went away, it was a lot. Going on fertility for that long is a lot of hormones, and it's very emotional and it's confusing. And so, like, you just I was like, I got my people, I got my girls, I got my
Have my
guys,
circle. Yeah.
and this is my safety. And it pared down a lot. And some of them I'm like, I wish it didn't pare down that much, of my own doing, not even just them. But I just the thing that I think was clear was, I dated a lot. And
Mhm.
everybody was like, well, what's wrong with him, or what's wrong with him? And like, and I and the truth is, I loved meeting these men. It wasn't like I was a masochist and like,
Yeah.
oh my God, everything is bad. Like, I've got funny
Yeah.
stories about it. I've got some my second episode of my podcast is about a story about a guy who really liked basketball. And you can listen to it if you want. But it's like, it's a good dating story. Let's put it that way. But
Yeah.
I just was like, I was in a relationship that I felt like made me feel good, and
Mhm.
the feeling again,
Yeah.
like going into a marriage
Mhm.
just to have a baby. I was like, there's got to be another way.
Yeah. For
And
sure.
this was, the way. I dated two men while I was pregnant. Like,
Wow.
I mean, it's also like, oh, are they okay with it? No, they were
But
both
it's
very
so true.
lovely,
It's
but
like finding the right person in the right time and the right
yeah.
feeling, not just
Yeah.
because of the anchor of I want to have a kid.
Right, right. And the men that I liked who were emotionally mature, the truth is at the time, they were older and they already had kids.
Yeah.
And so they were like, no, I don't actually want any more kids, which I had to respect, because I was like, you don't want to be that dad. You want to be the good dad that's involved, so it's like just bad timing, I guess. And yeah, I mean, people were, like I said, people were, it's a great weeder outer,
Yeah. For
you know,
sure. Well,
and
it's that thing where like when you're rising, you're gonna have people that are gonna fall off because they're used to you being down there on their
yeah,
level.
yeah.
And there's a caveat to that. It's not to say that we're better than people or anything like that, but sometimes we just don't
Well,
align our
sometimes we are
goals.
better than them, but that's
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. But there's always,
No, but I know what you're saying.
yeah, it's like so the people you want them to lift you up and you lift them up. And sometimes it is a good weeder outer.
Yes, yes. No, and that's really well put, actually, is I really try to support my people. You know what I mean? Like, like I said, it's the caretaker in me, and I love them. I want them to be as happy and successful and get all the things as they can. But my expectation, which didn't used to be the case, this was a very good teacher in that way, was my expectation is that they do the same. And if they
Right.
don't do the same, that's really, I think, what weeded out was that all of a sudden I was like, oh shit. Like I'm finally in it. Like I
Yeah.
didn't, I was very lucky, but like there wasn't a whole lot, there was a lot of drama in the just day to day, but there wasn't like actual big things, I think,
Yeah.
in my life for a long time, which is lucky.
Yeah.
But also like I was really busy taking care of everybody else. So like I didn't even, the drama that was happening in me, I just, shoved down or ate or, you know what I mean? Like,
Right. Right. And
you
that's what
know,
kind of circles this whole thing back around to the mental health part of everything. So, because you mentioned that it's the anxiety and depression, and that's been going on for a long time.
yeah.
You're like newly diagnosed ADHD. So, how do you how do you navigate that kind of stuff if it's anxiety or depression or whatever? Like, what do you find that helps you?
Yeah, I'm very vigilant in general. Like I have a very good, I mean, I've seen a therapist for maybe now 20 years. She knows me really well.
Yeah.
And something happened when I got divorced
Mhm.
where, I wasn't really telling anybody that I was even having trouble in my marriage. And
Yeah.
when that happened, I basically just was like, it was such a mess that I just was like, this is me.
Yeah. This is it. Yeah.
Like I'm a mess. I know I'm trying to be perfect or like the one that doesn't have any problems. I wasn't
Mhm.
trying to be perfect. I just was trying not to have any problems.
Yeah, it's almost like your authenticity came out because it
Yeah,
had to. You were like,
it
here's
had
what's
to.
actually going on. Yeah,
Right, right. And
totally.
so they became, advocates. They became on watch, the same way that I do for them.
Yeah.
But it developed it, which is actually why part of what that I think is so important is finding your tribe and not just finding like, oh, my girls I go out to drink with, but like these are the people I know I can call if I'm having a bad day. These are the people I know I can call if there's a work emergency and I don't know what to do. Like it can be strategic. It doesn't just have and authentic. It
Totally.
doesn't just, you need these people. There's nothing wrong with saying that. It doesn't mean you don't have actually an authentic connection, but
Yeah. But
and then I
there's
also take medication.
yeah. So okay. Okay. I think everybody should have a therapist. It doesn't even
Everybody.
matter to me. It's so funny because I reference my mom again because I think she's like healthy, but she's got problems like everybody else,
Everybody. Yeah.
And I know she's got internal stuff going on that happened when she was young that she never worked out. I think everybody needs to have a therapist. But
Yes.
so
100%.
you jive with your therapist really well. You've
Yeah.
had her forever. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. And
And
she's very action oriented, which is also what's helped
yeah.
me to start to help other people, is that she's very like, I don't leave. If there's something, I don't leave without something in my calendar, some plan to do something
Yes.
at a certain time of
I need a
day.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
It's very like, and that has taught me a lot about what works. I mean, for me, but I think in general, like that's how, and to go back to the mental health, like the other pieces of it,
Mhm.
the, I'm not great with routine.
Yeah,
It's great for me, but I'm not great with it. So adding those components in, helps tremendously. And then, the ADHD all of a sudden rearing its head and basically getting worse to the
yeah,
point where we knew what was going on, or I knew what was going on. She was like, you've been this way for a long time. You weren't ready to talk about it. But
yeah. So could you tell? I mean, could you tell it was like something was getting worse and you were
yeah,
like, oh wow.
totally. Totally.
What do you notice? Is it just like because I don't know a whole lot about ADHD specifically at all. So
Hmm.
other than my friends who have it, but
Right. It's a, well, what's interesting is that, I mean, and I'm no expert. I've known for 6 months, but I'm dyslexic and I've
okay.
known that for the majority of my life.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so that has been, and that was very, very challenging when I was growing up,
Mhm.
especially. So
I think especially back in the day, dyslexia
yeah,
somehow had a big stigma,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And nobody knew what it was. And yeah, like everybody, I was so ashamed,
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, I was
And in reality,
broken.
it's not a big deal. It's not, it's you see a two wrong, like it's okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
also like honestly now it has actually given me more. I mean, now it's like they call it your superpower and everything else, but the truth is like growing over the years and having to have some hardship, have some things that are harder,
Mhm.
forced me to finally figure out how I learn and
Yeah.
how understand mentally to break things down. So it's largely for me, it's processing, which is
Hmm.
so, people will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I go 1, 4, 2.5, 3.7, and then eventually get to 5. And as an adult, that has served me tremendously in every career I've been in. It's not always amazing for relationships because you can
Yeah.
see what's going,
Right. Right.
but also I can see like oh, this person does, like, it's just it's different wiring. And it's overall, once you get through like having to be in a rigid place, like reading these books together
Yes.
or learning
Yes.
together,
Hmm.
it's been a really big thing. And
Yeah.
so I've had that my whole life and very aware of it, and never talked about it until somewhat recently, by the way. Like, you didn't talk about it. You didn't talk about it at work. If
Yeah.
I made a
Yeah.
mistake, I didn't want anybody, yeah.
When I was first diagnosed bipolar, I was ashamed of it. And now it's
Oh,
like my
wow.
whole
Yeah.
business name is falling in bipolar. It's
Yeah, I
like
mean, I love that. Right.
yeah. Well, when you come out of that, or not come out of it, but did
Yeah.
you realize, oh, that's actually really working for my brain, like how my brain works or whatever? Did you realize that at a certain
It's
point?
taken a while, is the truth. I mean, it took this whole sort of second part of my life to really understand that it's really good. It, like, I do it well. But that's
Yeah.
also partially but of just like coming to the point where I'm me, and I'm gonna love myself, and I'm gonna own up when I hate myself, and try to find another something that's gonna make me love myself.
Mhm.
And it's not gonna look great, and that's okay. Like, I think a lot of it is over time, I've just gotten kind of more comfortable
Like
with
kind of
who I
better.
am.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
And I think that's a lot too of growing, kind of growing up, it's
yeah,
kind of we accept kind of who we are, but we're open to change, of course, and get
yes,
better, but we understand this is what works best for me.
yeah,
That's all a process. I know
yeah, yeah.
my nephew, he's been, ADHD or whatever, but
Oh,
he's
okay,
a
yeah,
kid, he's 9, he's a boy, whatever.
yeah,
So the way his brain works is different than the way my brain works, and I
yeah,
think it's just so interesting
yeah.
that he could sit and build a table where I look at a table and I'm like, I don't care how that works, I don't want to know how it works, just build the table for me, but he wants to
Yeah,
know all the details about how it
yes,
works, why it came together like that,
yeah,
and it's just very cool to understand how your brain works and what
yeah,
helps you,
yeah.
and it's learning that.
It is. It's funny. I do the same thing, but opposite. My daughter's not, as far as I can tell, neurodiverse yet.
Yeah.
I don't like, there's no signs. She's got, she's like a 6-year-old, right?
How old?
She
I was
can,
gonna ask. Yeah.
she's 6. Yeah. Like, so
Yeah.
she's actually good at math. Like, I mean, and the other thing is that, like, I'm actually excellent at things that require math. I'm
Wow.
excellent at spatial relationship. I've budgeted multi-million dollar renovations and events, and like, so the like but like, giving me a math problem, I'm
Yeah.
not going to get
Yeah.
it. But
Come
you
on.
give me Excel, and I am a wonder. But
Mhm.
like, my daughter is like, oh yeah, like, I mean, she's doing addition and subtraction and stuff like that, but she gets it right
Yeah.
away. And
Yeah.
I'm always like, or she's reading and she reads something, and I'm like
How'd you do
amazed. I'm
that?
like, what's going on in that head? Because she's
Yeah.
6. I was
Yeah.
10 when I
Oh, I know. These kids these days say words that I just learned last year.
yeah.
It's wild.
That's so
But
true.
that is so cool. And then I have to bring this up too because I don't
Yeah.
want to. You said I love that you said you were like it's one decision that opens your world up, and I've
Mm,
said stuff like that opened the world. It just
yeah.
does.
Yeah.
So was there, because that's what what you do is like these transitions that we make,
Yeah.
and like because I call it like your what kind of that aha moment, like that
Hmm.
thriving moment where you
Yeah.
switch everything.
Yeah.
So back then, not back then, but when you were going through this and like figuring all this out, right?
Yeah.
Did you have like that one moment or decision, or was that the decision you made to break up with your boyfriend at the time? Like, and
I
it,
think he was my husband at the time, but yes,
oh,
that
husband.
that he was
Okay.
my husband.
Yeah.
I think that was, I It's a really good question, actually. I think that was the door opening a little bit.
Yeah.
I think over time, like it's funny, if like a year or two later, I ran the marathon.
Oh,
And
wow. That
I'm
is
not a
awesome.
runner. I've never been a runner. Like I practiced yoga, but it wasn't like, but I was 39 and I was like, before I'm 40, and I had the luxury of um going on the divorce diet. So I was like, this is
Yeah.
probably the thinnest I'm ever gonna be. So it's
Yeah.
less on my knees.
Right. Right. I need to
Plus,
take advantage of this while I
yes,
can.
that is
Yeah.
legitimately the thought process. I was like, I'm gonna be 40. It's less on my knees. It's probably gonna be like the best. Like it was not. I'm going to, again, it wasn't like some big, like
Yeah.
monumental thing that
Like
way. It was
huge
really
moment.
like,
Yeah.
let me, and that's also like trusting your, like knowing what a decision is. Again, that
Totally.
moment, I think, was when it was probably the first time that I made a somewhat frivolous decision, but it was
Yeah.
mine.
Right. Right. Right.
And that's probably the door. That's probably when I walked through the door and was like, shit, this is awesome.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes. Like that. That's a good, I love a metaphor or analogy. I don't really know the difference between the two, but so that was the door that you opened and you were like, oh, like I can dig this. I just made
Yeah.
that decision for myself and I
Yep.
could go in this direction.
And it
Yeah.
didn't hurt anybody. And
Right.
it didn't, and nobody, I didn't care if anybody was disappointed. Why would they be disappointed? But if they didn't like it, not my
Mhm.
problem. So it's like, and that's the people pleaser part, and that's what's hard for
Yeah.
women. That's why this is such a, for me, that's why it's such an important muscle to develop as a woman,
Mhm.
because a lot, not everybody, and a lot of times, it happens with women who I tend to work with women who are moms, but
Yeah.
it's women, it's all women, like it's just all women, like
Yeah.
it's more that than, you could be a lesbian couple, it's still there's one
It's like
who's,
that innate.
nurture it, yeah, like
Totally.
it's
Totally.
just
You know
it's
what
not
I
a
have,
sexual thing, it's just,
yeah.
yeah,
You know what I have found on that? I have rubbed people the wrong way because
mhm,
the way that I live my life, I help, my family and I help to raise my nephew and I'll do anything for my friends and I will show up for them when they need it.
yeah,
But also, kind of on that same token, it's like
mhm,
Felicia is going to do what she wants to do,
yeah,
and I have kind of had pushback from friends that don't get that because
yeah.
they have been so, it's like, oh, you don't know Felicia, she's going to do what she wants to do, especially
Right.
if she's out drinking. I don't care
Right.
about anything, I am
Yeah.
doing what I want to do.
Yes.
And I have had pushback from that from
Yeah.
friends. And I'm like, look, I'm a single female. I don't have to answer to anybody, especially
Hmm.
you,
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
if you're not cool with that,
Right.
I don't have much to say, and we've kind
Yeah.
of if we can either what is it called? Like you can either agree to disagree and move on,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
it,
like if you're not with me, you're against me. Sometimes
yeah.
you're not against me if you're not with me, but in this case, you're kind of against me, so we're just gonna leave it go. Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think it's just kind of
Yeah.
a popular, a popular thing. Not saying I leave my girlfriends out in the dust or
No,
anything
I don't
like
mean
that,
it that
but
way. I don't mean it
yeah,
that way. It's just like there's an acceptance to it. And
yeah,
I'm the same way in terms of like,
yeah,
I've gotten to this point where like everybody around me kind of knows. They call it different things. Some think it's weird. Some find it inspiring. Some people don't give a shit.
yeah,
Like, it's fine.
right.
But they kind of know I'm gonna do like what I think is the right thing, you
Yeah,
know?
totally.
And it's not always the right thing. I certainly make enough mistakes, and a lot of times I get a lot of like, okay, so tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what that is. And like, it can sound scary or it can sound whatever, but
Yeah,
or they're like, I get it. Okay, cool. I
I
didn't get it
totally get
before, but
that.
I get it.
Yeah.
And that's the freedom of it. And listen, like choosing to have a baby by yourself is as big of a choice as choosing not to have a baby by
Totally.
at
Yeah.
all. Like they're both very,
Mhm.
like real live like reverse that. What I meant was choosing not to have a baby is as big of a choice as choosing to have a baby. You're
Totally.
choosing your life and what you want your life to look like. And that is a
Exactly.
big deal.
Exactly. And that's what, so I have a friend and she has made a conscious decision not to have kids.
Mhm.
And her husband even got, I don't know what the right term is, but they cannot have kids now. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
She had so many people that still to this day they're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
is she pregnant?" I'm like,
right.
"No, she's not.
You're
She doesn't."
alone.
Yeah, and it was a strong decision for her to make
Yeah,
and very definitive, like there
mhm,
was no wishy-washy and people just
yeah,
like didn't get it. Like they were like,
yeah,
she'll grow into wanting one. And she's
yeah.
like, no,
You're like,
it's not like she
no,
hates kids, but she
no.
doesn't want, and it's choosing to live her life in the way that she wants to live it.
Right. And we should have that choice. Men have that choice, is the
Yeah.
truth. Men have that
Yeah.
choice. You don't look at some dude who's, 70, who never was married and like,
Yeah.
did, even if he like never was married and like living off the land or in a, on a beach and
Yeah.
whatever. Like,
Just that guy. Yeah.
you're like, oh, that dude. Oh, you know what? He's really fun. You should talk to him. Like you
Yeah.
hear that about, and we're like, what is it? The childless cat lady. It's like,
Right. Well, that's okay.
sorry.
So I do you like Sex in the City? I'm obsessed with Sex in the City.
I watched it after I was divorced, so it was like 10 years after it aired, but I do very much like Sex in the City. Yeah.
Well, there's just specific parts, and I'm like, this is so me. This is why I like this
Yeah.
show. But that is the whole thing is why is an older man, and he's the bachelor and he's handsome and da da da.
Right.
But we are the crazy single people
Right.
because we're women. Like, no, we're
Right.
just we're
She's
just
on a hunt to like find him and find the guy. I mean, I was actually really it's a good example. I think it's actually really great that they made Carrie. I love that we're breaking this down, but I think it's right.
yeah.
Um, that they made Carrie decide not to want to have children
Mhm.
because she spent so many years trying to find him
Mhm.
that I think that almost if she was like, yes, now I'm going to go live this life, it would have dishonored who that
Totally.
character was and removed some of the um, strength is going to be a bad word because I don't want to say that like if she had a child, obviously, like that's not strength, but I think for
Not
her,
defining. Yeah.
yeah, like she was her own person, and I think that was part of it is she really did want that man, but
Mhm.
also doesn't want a kid and wants this life with that, and I think that is the thing that probably is what I think so many people related to too was that these women, all of them, were really like come hell or high water, like living their
What I
own
want. Yeah.
existence. Yeah, the way they
Totally.
want it. And their friends were calling each other out when they weren't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love it. And it and there's one part, not to get on a Sex and the City
Oh, it's
tangent.
fine. It's all
Here
good.
we are. There was
Yeah.
one part where, she got her shoe stolen at a baby shower and they were like,
Oh, yes.
and she was like, "Oh, that's really expensive, Carrie." And she was like, "What about all the thousands of dollars I've spent on
Right.
kids, and your baby showers and your wedding and all this?"
Yes.
Like, I totally get that.
Oh man, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I mean I listen, I have a shoe. I'm from New York, girl. I have a Manolo collection that's second to none. So
I love
like,
it.
and I'm not about to like I'm gonna do both because it's also, and this is the luxury of being single mom. This is like, a lot of times I have a lot of friends that are in couples, especially this
Yeah.
is a little dark, but because of the age that she's at, the amount of time people have been married, it's
Yeah.
not that long. So a lot of people are still married. And I hope all of them stay married. I love the idea of marriage. I would like to be married at some point, I think. Well, no, I know, but that came to me like a year ago, not, but
Yeah.
the truth is there's a lot that's the grass is always greener. There's a lot of green grass on the single mom side too.
Right.
I don't have
Right.
to make my choices are my own. I can buy the Manolos even if I shouldn't. I can, like
Yeah. And it's true, and it's so true because the co-parenting thing, and not to shit on anybody that's married and
no,
has
no,
a
yeah,
great life,
no, no, no,
not
no,
at
no, no,
all.
no, no. Right.
But
And my
I
friend, I love my
understand.
friends. Like I
Yes,
love and the
absolutely.
guys in it I love too. Yeah.
Totally. Absolutely. And it's like either way, there's pros and cons to
Yes.
everything.
Right,
I
right,
mean, you
right.
have to consult somebody before you make a decision for the
Yeah.
kid, for your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
So totally get it. I want to ask, what do you feel like for, I don't know, maybe your clients or from yourself and your story or whatever, do you
Yeah.
find a common theme on what people struggle with, or maybe like the thing that you start with your clients in this transition, if somebody's in a transition listening,
Yeah.
what would you say, or what any advice that you have?
The judgment, it needs to be a judgment-free zone. Like
Mm,
that's that, and that has to be ever present all the time.
mhm,
Because we're always judging ourselves. We just are. We're living in our bodies. Things are happening. We're making a judgment, you
mhm.
know. I like
Totally.
the red more than I like the purple, or there's always a judgment there. And
Yeah.
the more you judge yourself, the more you're going to judge other people. And the more you judge other people, the harder it is to do something that is going to make other people not judge you.
Yes.
And then you're just screwed.
Yeah.
So that's like the starter point. And for me, and this is sort of just me, is that I'm like even in with my friends, but I'm kind of the person that's just going to be honest. I'm going to be kind and I'm very empathetic
Yeah.
because I have my own shit. So like it's not, but I'm
Yeah.
going to be pretty upfront about what I think is going on, and that's not for everybody.
Hmm.
But if it's for you, it's
Yeah.
for
And I'm
you
grateful.
because
Yeah.
yeah, like I'll be
Yeah.
upfront and then I'll be like, okay, this is happening. Now let's figure out like what's going on. I'm not your therapist. I'm not here to be a therapist, and I'm not HR. Like I'm not here to like get you a job. I'm here for you to figure out, and this is where I basically want at some point I reverse engineered all the steps that I would start to take as I would make these big transitions, which is how it's a transition strategist.
I
So there's
love
like
that.
pieces. So
Yeah.
the first one is figuring out your value system.
Mm.
And that's not like, my morals and ethical code. It's my values are family, purpose, and learning. I think
Oh,
everybody
okay.
has three, maybe five.
Hmm.
But it's really the two usually go into the
It's
three.
almost like your love language, but what are your inner values? Like,
Yes, yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really well put,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah. And that kind of makes me function. And the order sometimes can change, but
Yeah.
which is also why when my ex-husband said, and I don't want children, that moment was so easy to do,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
It was just like
And
a click.
it was a
Yeah.
click. And
Mhm.
one could actually argue that like me trying to make it work was my value system around family. But had
Mhm.
I had the awareness around the value system, I would have seen that that wasn't his value system.
Right. Like a long,
And
long time
right,
ago.
right. And that's sort of those are the two mechanisms that we launch out of in a lot of most of the time is like there's no judgment because, you want to say family is my, it feels like I should say that if I have a family, the family is my value system.
Yeah.
My family being value system or my value system being family can
Mhm.
suck.
Yeah.
Like it's not, I'm not a saint. It's a pain in the ass. I resent it sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
and sometimes but knowing it also, sometimes I'm like, I have to
Mhm.
make a decision that's against that so that I
Mhm.
can be supportive of that. So but yeah, it's like your love language for,
Yeah.
inner
Yeah. That
peace.
makes so much sense, and it's such a cool thing that you say, your value system. I say a lot like, what's your belief system? And
Hmm.
that just kind of, just
Yeah.
correlate, all
Yeah.
correlate. And what is most important to you and things like
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
awesome. And
Yeah.
when I first started getting into like the business world, like
Yeah.
wondering what I wanted to do and all this kind of stuff, I would
Hmm.
look at people like you, like, how did they come up with that? How did they come up with a whole system around this one specific thing? And then I started doing it for like bipolar stuff or like mental health, and I was like, you just reverse
Oh,
engineering
yeah.
what you did that
Yeah.
works. You put it
That's
into
right.
a, yeah, that is
Yeah,
so
yeah.
cool.
Well, it's like you've created such an incredible, clearly, and I don't even know that much about your story, but like you've created, like I dated a guy briefly who was bipolar,
Wow.
and he was lovely, and he was very, and I was at the time, I think I was just newly single and all that other stuff, but it was like he was very upfront about it, and he did
Yeah.
still have, like episodes that were present, and he had one while we were dating where he just disappeared.
Yeah.
And it was, and I was like very confused. I was seeing my therapist. I kind of got it, like in terms of what she was telling me, like, this is what this looks like. But I think that, like, his ability to tell me that and to just be like, this is me. And if you don't like me because of it, then you suck. If
Yeah.
you can't deal with this,
Mm,
then, and he was pretty upfront about it. And the truth is, I was like, this isn't something I can do right now. Like,
mm,
it's not necessarily like now I look at it and I'm like, that's a different conversation now with the woman that I am. But I
yeah.
hadn't like, I
But
was still
then,
trying to figure out, yeah. But the point of it was really like the pieces that within that process and from experience,
mhm,
it's like you should be leading the fray. Do you know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like you're the person who should actually be leading that.
Oh, thank you. That was a compliment. I was like,
Oh yeah, no,
yeah,
hundred
like
percent. Yeah,
listening.
like
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
point. Like that's the you like
Thank you.
you've faced that. You've hurdled it. You still are. It's not like it's disappearing.
Right, right.
Which makes it like yeah, like that's the it is the reverse engineer, but it's also like you've done it. It's like you like try uh, like a new software program or
Yeah,
something.
it's
It's
like
like
you have to
it's
prove the
easy, but
concept.
initially
Yeah,
you fuck it
yeah.
all up in different ways. Like
Right, right.
it's like that's why I think these kinds of things are important. You don't, like it's fine. You can go to college, you can go to high school, or you can take a course in mathematics or in engineering, but these are not, this is
Yeah,
a lifetime of learning that, you know,
totally it.
you
Totally.
know.
And yeah, I've learned so much just from this conversation a day, but I've just,
Mm,
yeah, it's wild. And what you said earlier about the friends and like having the right friends in the right spots, like
mhm.
having you called it a tribe,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
having, because I always call it like the people in my corner, you
Mm,
don't have to be 100 people,
right.
and
No.
I've got, like the anchors of my family, yes, but that doesn't mean I go to them for everything.
Right. Right.
And then I have people for
It'd be
like,
weird if you did, is the
yeah,
truth. Like it
yeah,
wouldn't actually get you the best that you
right,
need if you did. Same.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. Like my friend's a sales coach, so I go her to with sales stuff, and
Yeah.
other stuff too. But it's like you
Yeah.
have your different people for different things,
For sure.
and then you have the people you have fun with and hang out with all the time, and that's fine. But
Yeah.
I love that, just having. So it sounds like it's very much about understanding judgment-free zone,
Hmm.
knowing your values, like what is absolutely non-negotiable, what is
Yeah.
important to you,
Yeah.
and then also having one hell of a tribe and knowing who to go
Yeah.
to and who not to go to in certain
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
huge piece.
Yeah. And then I think, and then, and this is, I'm very like, I feel very strongly about it, but a decision isn't a decision until you put it into action.
Totally.
Until you've actually
Totally.
walked
I love that.
like you've made that until you've actually put that into action, it's not actually a decision.
It's a thought.
It's a thought, and
It's
you
a
can
thought.
change that thought. You can
Yes.
change your mind on that thought. But once you've taken an action into it, if it's the wrong decision, you can then know it is and turn
Understand that
around.
it's the wrong decision. Absolutely.
Yes, instead of
Carol, that just like
theoretically like blah, right?
that alone lit up my whole brain. It's so true. Well, it's so true because, it's when people are like, it's the thought that counts. It's like, no, it's not. But
Not really. Yeah.
I could think
You ever
about
gotten an IOU from somebody?
right. Exactly. Exactly.
Like, okay.
Well, it's like, I could really have a great thought to go to the gym every day, but until
Mhm.
you do it, you're not
Right.
doing it.
You're
You're
not
not
getting healthy.
deciding to
Right. You're
do
not
it.
building that muscle.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Totally.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
and your mental health and your mind and body is all the same.
Right.
Like,
Very much so. I'll
I
tell
love
you, I take medication. I'm pretty open about it.
that.
And it's a little scary for me even now to say that because there is still a lot of stigma, but I think it's important for people. And I don't think everybody should be on medication. I'm not saying that
Either.
either.
Totally.
It works for me a lot.
Mhm.
And I work with another doctor to like make sure that it's balanced.
Yeah.
Life can get stressful. So it's like, what's going on with your mental health and then what's going on with life and what is the
Yes.
balance? Like it's not just one thing, but
Totally.
the pieces that like that is part of my routine,
Totally.
is
Yeah.
that helps me to
That
lift
helps you. That helps you be the guy that you need to be every day, or the girl.
exactly
You know.
for all the people that I need to be it, including
Yes.
myself. Yeah.
Yes. And there's so much. It's. I think it's either or, and it's either mental health or physical health. No, it's the same. It's
It's
one
the same thing.
thing. Yes, it's like what is
Yes.
going on in your body, your extracurricular, what's going
Yeah.
on outside with your friends,
Yes.
family, and your kids
Yes.
that is affecting this. And
Yes.
I was called one time a med pusher because I like talked about how meditation helped me, and they were
Yeah.
like, "You're a med pusher," and I was like, "No, I'm not.
Like,
Like, no, I'm not." I,
no, not that. Just
but
think
yeah,
it
you're
works for
right.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know from experience it works for me. It got me stable. And now I'm kind of weaning off of a couple I don't think I need anymore, but I'll
Yeah.
I'll never get off on there's one that I probably will always be on. And and I've taught, but I'm doing that responsibly, talking to my psychiatrist. Like, he
Yeah.
knows everything, and he's like,
Yep.
that's fine, let's try it. And
Right. Right.
and I think there's just a balance with all of it.
Yeah. You'd never say to somebody who needs glasses, you know
Hmm.
what? It's a crutch. You should
Hmm.
go get in the car and drive
Yes.
on the highway and
Yeah.
not wear them because
Yeah.
it's making you weaker or it's making you dependent or it's not really you. It's not really your eyes. Well,
Yes.
that's insane.
Well, if I have a headache, I would take headache medicine, right?
Right, right, right,
It,
right.
and it's so true. I was told one time when I was first diagnosed, like, this is in
Uh-huh.
2010,
Yeah.
very religious. And if you're religious, rock on. But this is what
Yeah.
she said to me, who
Mm-hmm.
had never walked in my shoes, hadn't seen what my parents have seen.
Right.
And I come out of the hospital and I was kind of zombie, they had to bring me down, and I did get
Mm-hmm.
depressed, and it was awful
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
And she calls me one time and she's like, Felicia, you don't need to be on medication. You need to give this to God. And ultimately was telling me, like, and I'm like, hold on. Like, you don't know anything about what's going on.
Right, right, right,
This is
right,
not like
right.
a crutch that I want to be on medication.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
It's
trying
not
to
like,
navigate.
yay, I have like
Yeah.
40 pills I have to take in the morning.
Yeah. I get to gain 40 pounds on top of those
Right,
pills.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So,
I'm like this when I'm trying to figure out which one,
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Sorry. Yes.
So it's what works best for you, and what
Yes.
routines do, and the
Right.
internal stuff, and it's
Right.
it's
And
a
that's why the
full-time
judgment
job.
is so important. Right. And that's why the removing the judgment is so important, I think, too, because it's like what works for you may not work for me. It may too. And maybe
Yeah.
you're a great resource for
Mhm.
that. If I just shut my mouth and listen for a minute, maybe
Yeah.
that's something I should explore. It might not be the answer in the end, but maybe it is. But now I know something
Hey,
more.
now you know what didn't work, which
Yeah.
is great. It's still an answer,
Yeah.
and it's like
Exactly.
figuring out and navigating what worked for me, what might work for you is totally different.
Yeah.
But keep your mind open
Yeah.
to different options, to different
Yeah.
solutions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. It's true. And it's like you have these friends, right? You have these people around you who you kind of like they know you like you're getting input from them from different
Right.
ways. And that's why they are your tribe or your the
Your
people in your
people.
corner, right? They're
Yeah.
your people and they're there to help. And sometimes the other people and a lot of times the friends are there to help or they don't help in this way or they say too much or they're too nervous. Like there's plenty of I'm the same way. It's not like everybody comes to me for all the things.
Yeah.
Usually
Yeah.
they come to me if they just want to hear like my thoughts. Like they
Mhm.
just want to hear
Like,
like, all right,
I need you to see this.
I
Yeah.
need this a little bit unfiltered. So tell me what you think because I'm going crazy. I'm going up my ass right now. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
let's do it because they know
Let's
I'm also
dive in.
like, let's do it. I'm like, all right, he's cheating on you. But like, or you're not, I know that you're working your hardest, and I love you and I will help you. But the truth is you're not. And that's
Hmm.
a lie that you're telling yourself. I think that if you tried this, it might help. And if it doesn't, I'm still here for you to do, you know what I mean? Or if you don't like it or don't want to listen to me, I don't care. I'll love you
Yeah.
anyway. And I'm just here because of that. Like
I love that.
you know,
That's what people are looking for when they come to Carole,
that's
because
right. Like,
I kind of go off on, trying to give advice and looking at the big picture, and let's da, 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 da.
yeah,
But some
yeah.
people are like, I just wanted to vent. And I'm like, well, tell me that, because I'm
Yeah,
going
and
to
that's
my
and that's important.
411.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
And by the
That
way,
was,
if I'm like, I think he's
yeah.
cheating on you, it's not like, oh, you should dump his ass. It's like, okay, you
Yeah.
know, there's no perfect scenario. I mean, like I've had that. There's no like, well, I should stay with him. I shouldn't stay with him. You do what you feel is necessary and what you can live with in your life. That's the
Yeah.
thing. Like, I'm not
Totally.
saying it's okay. I'm just saying like, or she's cheating on you, whatever. Like, it's just like, it's all those, but yes, it's like, that's y- you know, I don't know how to do it any other way.
Right. Right. Like, I don't know what you need from me, because this is how I see it, and this is how I
Yeah.
live, and this is
Yeah.
exactly.
And I don't know how, yeah, like I don't know how to figure it out without like exposing it and probably staring at it for way too long and poking at it and like I don't know how to
Right.
do it any other way. Like
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. This
and
is
some
it.
people do. Some people are much more elegant with this kind of thing and they're much more like they make a decision and they do it or they focus in on one thing and that's what they do. Like
Mm,
No.
totally. I'm like,
Yeah.
nope, yeah,
It
I
doesn't,
love it.
yeah.
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 That is that's so cool. Your energy very much matches mine. Thank you so much, Carole, for taking your time to come and talk on the podcast today.
Thank
I
you for having me.
I just love learning more about you, and I love your energy. I love what you stand for. I love what you've done with your life and your daughter. So very cool. Thank you.
Thank you. And back at you, by the way. Very
Well,
much. Very
thank
much.
you. Thank
Very
you.
much.
I wanted to say one more thing. Where
Yeah.
can the audience find you? What's your podcast? I'll put your podcast on the
Oh,
description, audience, by the way, but say that one more time. I know we said it in the beginning.
oh, sure. My podcast is called She Takes the Lead, and we talk about pretty much everything, but from the perspective of when you get a left turn in life, which we always do, what do you do then? Like, how do you take the lead in your own life? And that's really what it's focused on.
I love that.
And you can, I'm on social media at Carole Poddell. It's Carole, Poddell. My website is carolepodell.com. And actually, you know what? I will, for your listeners, I have a little present if they want. I think it's probably on point, but it's the 10 truths your best friend won't tell you, but probably should. That's
Ooh, I want it.
stopping you from your greatness. So, stopping you from being what you want to be and where you should be going. So,
Well, I want that. So I'm
deal.
sure.
Done and done. Yeah. So
Done.
I'll give you that and you can link it. It's at my website. But I'll link it to here. If you go to Carole Poddell /friends,
Okay.
it'll be there.
Awesome. Well, you all, I hope you have enjoyed this conversation with Carole and I today. And I think I just want to sign off and say that the takeaway is life is going to turn left. Life is going to turn left, and what do you do when it does? And Carole can help with it, and she's amazing, and hope you all got something from it. I never say my sign off when I have a guest, so I'm going to do that. You
Please
all
do.
keep trudging forward. Tomorrow is a new day. It has never been touched. And if you're not balling yet, you can be and you will be. Have a good day.